It looks like an ordinary white powder. But in the late 2000s, that powder was quietly spreading across online forums, gas stations, and bedrooms all around the world. This isn't cocaine, this isn't meth, this was something stranger, an obscure Soviet tranquilizer called Phenazepam. It would leave you typing like you'd suffered a stroke, and if you're lucky, end up logging into your eBay account buying a grand piano you can't play. I very deliberately said the word lucky. On paper, Phenazepam looks like any other benzodiazepine. Doctors prescribe it for conditions like schizophrenia, anxiety, and insomnia. It's sometimes used in hospitals as a pre-medication before surgery where it helps boost the effects of anesthesia. But outside the clinic, it's always had another life. In the Soviet Union, Phenazepam tablets, usually just 0.5 milligram each, were standard issue. Military personnel, security forces, and even civil defense units carried them. Production continues today. The Russian state remains the main manufacturer, but companies like Interchem in Odessa and Elaine Farm in Latvia have kept it in circulation across Eastern Europe. Phenazepam is a remarkably stable drug. Its simple chemical structure gives it a shelf life of over 5 years. This stability made it perfect for the black market. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, warehouses full of surplus pills and raw powder began leaking out. Think Lord of War, but instead of AK-47s, it's massive quantities of cheap Phenazepam, flooding the grey market research chemical scene. Phenazepam still exists in this legal grey zone today. In Russia, Belarus, and a handful of other post-Soviet states, it's still available as a prescription-only medicine, tightly controlled on paper, but very much part of their pharmaceutical landscape. Outside of that region, its status is far more complicated. Take the United Kingdom. For years, you could buy it online, no questions asked, so long as it was marketed as not for human consumption. That ended in 2012 after a series of hospitalizations and deaths linked to the drug. Authorities stepped in, classifying it as a Class C controlled substance, lumping it in with other benzos. The United States has never approved Phenazepam for medical use, and it isn't scheduled at the federal level, but that doesn't mean it's legal. Several states have gone out of their way to ban it outright. Louisiana moved fast after authorities discovered Phenazepam hidden in gas station air fresheners.
Now, Xanny, an air freshener not intended to freshen a room. Xanny contains a prescription tranquilizer similar to Valium and Xanax. Mixed with alcohol, doctors say it can easily kill.
Elsewhere, the bans have been more explicit. Australia, China, Finland, Norway, and a growing list of other countries have written Phenazepam directly into their Controlled Substances Acts. New Zealand banned it after a synthetic marijuana called Chronic was found to contain the drug. The reasons are the same everywhere. It's powerful, lasts too long, and has a track record of putting people in hospital beds. Legal bans have not erased it. Phenazepam is still out there. It's cheap, easy to ship in bulk, and thanks to its long shelf life, it doesn't spoil. For years, it's been sold online in the form of powders, pressed tablets, and even blotters, marketed through the same shadowy channels that distribute other research chemicals. In harm reduction communities, this combination of bulk supply, stability, and potency made Phenazepam infamous. Forums are filled with warnings of people who underestimated it, who redosed too soon, who blacked out for days. It's a drug that lingers, both in body and culture, long after regulators have tried to stamp it out. It's what you could call a challenging benzo. It's what you could also call the ocarina of time if it teleported you to the hospital. By challenging benzo, I mean it will get you as high as giraffe pussy off of very small doses. How small? Well, luckily I've got a picture. See that tiny grain right there next to the penny? Right there. That's enough to get you zooted for a few hours. At around 60 hours, it's one of the longest lasting benzodiazepines ever made. To put that into perspective, Valium, a benzo you might be more familiar with, has a half-life of only 50 hours, which means Phenazepam can hang out for days longer. What this means in practice is, once you're high for a very long time. People describe it as being stuck in the fog. You might feel the strongest effects for just a few hours, but the sedation, cognitive dulling, and impaired coordination can drag on for days. The danger is that Phenazepam doesn't feel rewarding. Unlike other benzos, it isn't euphoric. Even experienced users are often tricked into thinking it's not working, so they take more. And because of that 60-hour half-life, the doses stack in the bloodstream. That's where people get into real trouble. Since the 1990s, online communities like Arrowwood and Blue Light have acted as resources for people experimenting with psychoactive substances. These platforms became hubs where users could submit detailed trip reports. first-hand accounts of their experience with psychedelics, dissociative stimulants, and everything in between. In their earliest form, these reports were raw and unpolished, long blocks of text that read like half confession, half laboratory logbook. These reports acted as warnings about bad combinations, mislabeled chemicals, and side effects that no one would have bothered to put on a label. Over time, the culture around trip reporting began to shift. With the rise of social media, YouTube, TikTok, and meme culture, reports of altered states moved away from diary-like documentation and have instead morphed into performances. Reports today take the form of fast-cut edits mimicking hallucinations, psychedelic memes, and cryptic references that only insiders are meant to understand. Instead of clinical accuracy, the emphasis is on aesthetics, humor, and identity. Trip reports are less about documentation and more about belonging to the culture itself, and yet the original function lingers. Whether it's buried in a forum thread or disguised as a meme, people are still using trip reports to warn others, spread harm reduction knowledge, and keeping the culture alive. One of the places you can find this discussion was a place known as the Crackhead Clubhouse. Despite the name, the Crackhead Clubhouse wasn't just about crack. It was a sub-forum of the website known as Something Awful. Selling and buying of drugs on Something Awful is and always has been strictly forbidden, punishable by ban. The forum itself was meant for discussion, and buying and selling would implicate the admins in illegal activity, and they've had a few too many visits from the Secret Service in the past to want to attract any more visits from any form of officer. Goons, who are members of Something Awful, not that kind of goon, or that kind either, use the sub-forum as a safe place to talk about every drug under the sun. Recreational drugs like cannabis get discussed the most, but thoughtful discussion of any other chemical is allowed. Psychedelics, benzos, stimulants, opiates, and research chemicals, even chemicals like Phenazepam. They had a nickname for it: the juice. TCC had stumbled upon sites manufacturing and selling it, and as it's not illegal, began to order massive doses. As we've established, it's active in minuscule amounts, dirt cheap, lasts for days on end, and takes a long time to kick in. This perfect storm of circumstances leads to a thread being posted called Phenazepam. Any experiences? Before we go any further, there's something you need to know about Something Awful. It's mostly a comedy forum. It's been around for 25 years and has many sub-forums aside from ones about drugs and shit posting. The forums have a long-running policy. If a user dies in real life, their account gets permanently banned. This isn't meant as a cruel joke at the expense of the dead. The idea is practical. It is to prevent anyone else from logging in and posting under their name after they're gone. But it does mean when you're reading old threads, every now and then you'll see a user who is banned not for breaking the rules, but because they're no longer with us. With that in mind, let's return to the story. A Something Awful user posting under the name Oh No Not Me had just started a thread about their latest discovery. I have a load of Phenazepam, a Russian benzo legal in the US, Canada, and the UK, and everywhere else excluding Norway apparently. It is cheap, available online, and reportedly very potent. But you can only buy it as a pure powder. It has a 60-hour half-life, and stories abound of people getting fucked up week-long blackouts by trying to eyeball a 1 milligram dose, which is about the size of a small grain of sand. Easy to mess up. So I did my research, have ordered some propylene glycol to dissolve it in so I can control the dose exactly, drop by drop. I've always been a big benzo fan, and an addict on and off for years. I'm just curious as to whether anyone else has tried it in normal or recreational doses. The first few pages of the thread are pretty simple. Some goons are apprehensive, having dabbled in benzos before, expressing shock at the fact it has a 60-hour half-life, and showing concern that someone could easily spike someone's drink with the drug. Others regale their own experiences. During one blackout, I spent $600 that I did not have for shit that I did not want. Fuck you, Phenazepam. The problem is it's so damn strong, just like alaprazam powder, that one dose turns into a binge that will turn into multiple day blackouts. Anyway, I flushed mine down the toilet, too many blackouts from this substance. Others are more enthusiastic, wanting to know if Phenazepam will come up on drug tests. They want to see what it's like, asking if people have experiences, because it seems like a good deal, and these are the goons that start placing orders. Just ordered. Can someone explain to me how this eyeballing is done? No. Do you use a solvent? Do you jam it under the eyelid? This isn't really that obvious for someone who normally doesn't take drugs with his eyeballs. This is a note from me in the script writing process. Don't put drugs in your eyeballs. I've already spent quite a few minutes explaining why this drug is quite terrifying, but it's important to hear from someone with experience with the drug themselves. Let's hear from a goon known as Shasta Orange Soda. Benzos really aren't very euphoric drugs. You might feel happy because you're so relaxed, but that's about it. At normal prescription doses, their effects are subtle. At higher doses, expect to be very sleepy, and you may experience memory loss. Mixed with alcohol, you'll feel drunk from 2 or 3 drinks, but combining alcohol and benzos is a good way to kill yourself. You'll also barely remember the shit next day. We will hear more from him later. Basically, if you stay on a drug like this for a while, even at a prescription level dose, you will start to forget shit all the time and get frustrated at yourself and generally just turn stupid. And things are about to get stupid. Cascading Style Sheet is currently banned on Something Awful. Not because they're dead, but because they posted uncensored buttholes in the general bullshit forum. They did, however, get a hold of some Phenazepam. Let's take a look at some of their posts now. I'll be giving you the dates because that's actually quite important for the joke, and I'll do my best to read their posts as written, misspellings included. Post number 1, October 11th, 2009. I bought a sheet of the Che Guevara blotter paper off the net to apply mine to once it arrives. I got that one because it's a simple black and white of the iconic picture everyone knows, and I'm worried about ingesting a load of toxic ink. I have no idea how they print them, but it seems like an unhealthy thing to eat. I would have gotten a blank sheet if I could. I sure as hell wouldn't make my own with an inkjet printer. Post number 2, Wednesday, October 14th, 2009. I just had 1 square, so I'll see if I turn into a ragging zombie. Post number 3, Friday, October 16th, 2009. Took the shuff on Friday, maybe monitor a few get or 10, I don't remin if now a day later and I feel on another planet. Track a 6-pod tea to settle down, can't barely walk or anything, I can't have goon far or downway thing. This stuff will wreck you and make think I just need fresh air. Saturday, October 17th. I cook my first dose Friday and now it's suddenly Monday, I'm still too cross-eyed to write properly and I never really had positive effect during that time. Can't wait for this shits to be gone so I can juck it on with what I'm doing. Had a few hours of work and feel better, very hard to form any thoughts and feel dizzy and cross-eyed and very tried. I really hope these clocks are correct. Total zombification. I don't think I'll do it again. Nasty hangover at this amount. One thing that's worth pointing out as they mentioned 6-pod tea. Phenazepam wasn't the only grey market high circulating at this time. Another kind was DIY opiate tea, brewed from dry decorative poppies that you could buy in bulk at craft stores. The result was a murky, unmeasured brew that could be anywhere from mildly sedating to a full-on overdose. So in these threads you'll find users eyeballing doses of Phenazepam, but washing it down with an unknown amount of homemade opium tea in an attempt to take the edge off of each other. And yes, that combination is as reckless as it sounds. But also, one line that sticks out to me there is, I really hope these clocks are correct. And if you've been paying attention, it was Monday nowhere in the world at any point during that time period. It will become very obvious throughout more of these stories that there's a reason that Phenazepam is very well known for causing these kind of mistakes, both typing and time-wise. Like other benzos, it slows reaction time and disrupts fine motor skills, making something as simple as pressing the correct keys very difficult. At the same time, its strong sedative and memory impairing effects leave users unaware of just how garbled their words have become. Or, in Cascading Style Sheet's own words on November 3rd, "Oh my god, I just read all my crazy posts in this thread and I don't remember any of that." Not surprisingly. Funny shit though. Because Phenazepam's half-life stretches for so long, people remain in this impaired state for far longer than they expect, producing streams of type-written, rambling posts or messages. Whole threads of slurred, mistake-filled text that make it clear the writer is still under its lingering influence. It also leaves you hungry for a little retail therapy. Let's bring back our friend Shasta Orange Soda. Oh Jesus. I had exactly 2 beers with some eyeballed Phenaz on Sunday night. All I remember is hanging out with my roommate, listening to music and playing video games. I don't remember this, but I woke up from my benzo sleep for a little while on Monday morning, 8:30 according to my computer, and went on eBay. I used the buy it now option for an Apple 3GS 16GB unlocked and jailbroken iPhone for $700. Fuck. It looks like I didn't pay for it though, or maybe I tried to and didn't have enough on my account, so I'm going to try and get out of it. iPhones are sorta cool, and it makes sense that I'd want one, but I also placed a $100 bid on a Vos & Sons antique grand upright piano, and only lost because it wasn't enough for the reserve. Yeah, I've never known how to play an instrument in my life, don't have room for a piano, and a million other reasons why that bid was a bad idea. Apparently, after placing those bids, I went back to sleep for another 8 or 9 hours. I really can't get over how supremely problem-worded this all was. And the topper is that the Phenaz afterglow lasts so long that I didn't realize any of this until 36 hours after it happened. Just in case some of you weren't alive at this point, or alive in a way that mattered, this was when the iPhone 3GS was actually relatively new, so this is the 2025 equivalent of going online and trying to buy an iPhone 15 or 16 while incredibly high. Other users, like Juice on the Loose, who, for the record, joined the forums because of this thread, had an even worse time. Holy shit, where to begin? I tried just a little and it was great. Slept most of the day. A few weeks later, Monday, I try a little more. I wake up Tuesday night with a broken arm from crashing my motorcycle in a parking lot. Walk 30 miles the wrong direction home. In the middle of the night, cop pulls me aside and was wondering where I'm going. Home, no ID, no money, no cell phone, but keys, thankfully. I fail a sobriety test as it's 30 or so out, raining, and I was cold, shivering, so I think I got some leniency. Thankfully, he gave me a lift. Wake up Wednesday to an email that said if I wasn't in the hospital, I was fired, and my fiance's father called and said if I called her again, he'd get a restraining order. Now I find out that despite being in the hospital, I'm still fired. Learn from my lesson, folks. You will lose the love of your life and despite being a week later have no idea why. Lose your job, and in a month or so, your apartment. I have basically nowhere to go. There are going to be stories where I refer to Phenazepam as the juice, and you might be wondering, do you mean orange juice? Steroid? It's just what goons call the juice. It's coined by forums user DEFCON, and suffice it to say, the juice is very loose. Fuck all y'all for not mentioning the side effect of goddamn impotence. So, first moral, don't lift on the juice. Doing clean and jerks, I smacked myself directly in the lower jaw with a bar loaded down with 100 plus of weight. My teeth are intact, only by the grace of God. And as long as we're telling stories from last night, it only took 2 small glasses of wine from an open bar to openly announce that everyone was going drinking at some bar after an art opening. Again, keep in mind, there was already an open bar. And this was an art opening I'm uninvolved in at a school I don't go to. Of course no one showed up to drinks after, but neither did I. Got way too chummy with some apparently very serious art professors, fell down a short flight of stairs, and that's what I remember. After leaving, not driving, I managed to buy a 40-piece Popeye's chicken with all the biscuits and sides for 2 people. Mostly, I have come to one of 2 conclusions. 1, the juice got loose, or 2, the art community has mellowed out way too much since its heyday. Either way, I'm off this stuff for a while. Godspeed all ye hearty juices. It's simple. You buy some juice, take some juice, you can't nut when you're off the juice, and you smack yourself in the face with weights while also off the juice. Then other people go, hey man, that's sick, I want to try some of it, and then end up freestyling Lil Wayne's A Milli for a verse and a half in the middle of their college philosophy class. That same person also ordered a $200 pike on eBay. You can get very, very, very fucked up on this drug. One user has pages documenting friends' experiences with the drugs in Eastern Europe. That would take me hours to unravel and provide context for, so at this point I'm actually going to bring up forums user Brukake. Brukake is dead. I'll rip that band-aid off straight away. Their story does not end well. As goons traded notes about dosing, side effects, and the drug's tendency to cause comedy-laden blackouts, Brukake had spotted a business opportunity, and what had started as banter about Phenazepam quickly turned into a half-serious business pitch. I am officially shopping for kilos. Thejuice.com is going to happen. With the enthusiasm of a late-night infomercial salesman, Brukake promised to deliver Phenazepam in neat packages, complete with a moose mascot, a website, and shitty jokes disguised as email addresses. Soon, other posters were chiming in, suggesting email handles, offering to do web design. A lot of them were openly saying they'd rather buy from a fellow goon than a shady foreign supplier. Okay, so a kilo is a bit more than I expected, but I have an idea that could definitely get the ball rolling, and I'd like the input of TCC. I could get to juice.com, get the scale, but buy a couple of grams at a time and sell 100 milligram bags. When I make enough money from doing this, I could eventually buy the kilogram and go on full force. When I get to the point that I'm carrying bulk, I'll keep it $20, but give goons a discount of $5, so you'll only have to shuck out $15 to start eyeballing that fancy grand piano on eBay. His plan seemed pretty solid on paper. He'd be shipping his packages of the juice discreetly. They'd be double-packed. with only a small sticker reading 99% pure Phenazepam, not for human consumption. To him, there was nothing illegal about it. It was just another research chemical sold casually through envelopes and stamps. What could go wrong? Orders started piling up. At one point, there was 17 in a single day. He planned to move to Arizona, announcing updates from a Greyhound bus. Things might be going as planned, as I think I'm taking the Greyhound bus back to Phoenix and leaving Minnesota after a dispute with my father. Orders placed by tomorrow and Tuesday might be shipped out a little late, but I will be in business. Hopefully, I don't run out of stock by then and turn this into a nightmare. Wish me luck, because there are already 17 orders on the way to the PO today. In Arizona, I'll have everything I need and business will be as usual. And don't worry, he assured his customers. I'll be juiced out of my gourd the whole ride. Unfortunately, this is where disaster hits. Okay, to anyone who ordered since I've left, I'm sorry for the delay. My stock got stolen on the bus and my bike is missing somewhere, which sucks because my scale was in my bike box. I'll know by 5 whether or not they found my bike box by 5, but if not, then I'll have to file a complaint and then it might take 90 days. Luckily, I'd had enough money for more stock so I can sell more and I can probably afford a new scale. I'll just hang tight and I promise you'll receive your shipment come hell or high water. Ask the other customers. I do my best to do good work. This has been a nightmare for me, so you might want to hold off on new orders. Once again, I'm sorry. I'll update when I can get to my mother's house. You can see the trademark misspellings and botched word placement of someone who is still under the lingering effects of Phenazepam, and there are pages of people wondering where he ends up. Goons do end up getting their packages. If his stock was stolen and not misplaced, I hope it was unmarked, because someone is going to cut out a fat line thinking it's cocaine and time warp like they never have before. He does make it to Arizona. One goon does receive a package of Phenazepam postmarked from there. Unfortunately, this is where Brukake's story ends. He's eventually found, and it's reported to the Something Awful forums that he has passed away. Even after all this, goons are still buying and taking the juice. Rather than get a scale and measuring each small amount, they dose by dipping a toothpick in a baggie or by counting out individual grains on dark paper. What goons are discovering is that Phenazepam builds up tolerance incredibly quickly, and they are having to take much larger, much bigger doses. When you factor in what benzo withdrawal actually looks like, you're going to end up with a bad time. Some goons end up taking 20 milligrams at a time, and it's not great. Moderators step in at this point, banning all vendor discussion, and a new thread is made. I do feel a bit sad for Brukake, but he wasn't just taking Phenazepam, and nobody was pushing the stuff down his throat. Quite a few people directly told him to be careful, and this really should serve as a warning to not mess around with this sort of drug. Of course, some goons can't help themselves and end up doing stupid things like pouring 5 milligrams of Phenazepam into a Rockstar energy drink. No one is smart on benzos. These people are stupid as hell, but are geniuses at finding ways to safely dose themselves. One guy takes Phenazepam, mixes it with acetone, and then sprays it over caps full of baking soda. He's letting it absorb into the baking soda where the acetone will subsequently evaporate. Don't drink acetone. But if you're the person who hears these stories and goes, yeah, I actually want to try Phenazepam, then I don't think I can stop you. But don't drink acetone. There is another person who is trying to mix it with Purell. I used around 1 milligram per milliliter of Purell. Worked fine with some heat for me. It's plentiful, discreet, non-toxic at anywhere near rational amounts, and damn near tasteless. Is there any reason not to use Purell? I mean, it consists of ethyl alcohol, propylene glycol, water, and a couple other things, the worst of which is probably perfume. It worked fine for me, and kept for a couple of weeks without any noticeable degradation. There are safe ways to easily measure out Phenazepam. Alcohol-based hand wash is not one of them. Don't mix your Phenazepam with that either. Some goons are treating this as a party drug, mixing it together with vodka and juice. In this case, I mean orange juice, and going out to the club. One goon does that, and the bouncer is a complete asshole, according to them, and squirts the bottle down his throat just as a fuck you to the goon. The goon did not see that bouncer on the way out. One thing that I need to make very clear before I finish today. This happened across 2 threads on Something Awful's TCC subforum. Both of these threads took place in less than a year. This was not a decades-long slow degradation of people's lives. The nickname of the juice is deeply embarrassing and very juvenile. Its effects are very, very real. If you do somehow decide buying this chemical is a great idea, I am going to link a How to Get Sober from Benzos video by Flesh Simulator in the description. There are dozens and dozens of stories you can find, not just from Something Awful. There's a reason the term Phenaz posting is well known in these circles. Because I feel like I've gone a bit too heavy-handed on the doom and gloom, I will leave you with one funny story. The juice made me hook up with one of my friends who is a girl. We ended the next night sleeping together in my bed. Then the next day, after another eyeball dose, I had gay sex with my friend. Neither of us are gay, and I don't even remember how it happened. Just saying the juice is not to be fucked with.